This week on Arizona Illustrated, gender and sexuality at the border.
The fear of being detained or sent back often outweigh the need to share.
One woman's look back at the Dunbar School.
And I don't think we realized the only books we had was used books when other schools were through with them, or that we were really deprived. I think if that's all you know, that's all you know.
Text, Talk, Act. A new mental health app for today's youth.
It is okay to have mental health issues, and it's okay not to know what they're about, because that's what this is all about.
And Far Afield with Roman Barten-Sherman. Welcome to Arizona Illustrated. I'm Tom McNamara. Migrants around the world face life-threatening obstacles every day. On the U.S.-Mexico border, this continues to be true. And for border crossers who identify as female, the risks are even higher. Well, during a recent celebration and performance, artists, activists, scholars, and migrants gathered to acknowledge the human toll being taken at the southern border through the lens of gender and sexuality. This is Binational Encuentro.
The majority of the people that are right now displaced in the world are women and children. We are talking about a different generation that it has been uprooted.
If you really think about the numbers of deaths and rapes that occur to female-identified persons at the border, we would all be astounded.
Groceries in and out of her house. I asked if she would look at a picture. She indicated that she did not.
We decided to bring together artists, activists, and scholars that work on the topics of migration from the perspective of gender and sexuality.
We're ignoring what's the violence that we're setting up.
The 9-day event was the Binational Encuentro Female Migrations.
Performances are put together, theater, video art, and many different types of arts together. So really it speaks to an audience, especially a young audience, in a very different way, using means that they have at their hands.
The issues are extremely complex, and there are multiple strands or multiple problems, and they're intersecting at this place.
The cultural segregation that communities at both sides of the border experience is larger because of the lack of money and resources. So for us, it was very important to bring art there, because we were talking about the violence of the migration policy and the violence of the wall. So you cannot talk about it and then not present it. So of course the performances, all of them acquire a very different level of significance when they are done at the very same place that they were originated in concept.
The numbers of women who have been violated and who have had to deal with multiple kinds of violence as they've crossed is something that really has not been researched well. The fear of being detained or sent back often outweigh the need to share that information.
We keep talking about migration as it's just this moment, this instant, when people cross or not. There are root causes that are historical, colonial histories, and how manifest destiny is one of the origins, right? So you have to talk about white supremacy and racial and gender ideologies, neoliberal economies, and how all of that interact in the moment where the global south and the global north connect. And that border is just a literal manifestation of all of these interrelations.
I was so struck by the way that Violetta Luna both humanized that Border Patrol agent, but also through that interaction, pushed him to recognize her own humanity.
She was perceived by the Border Patrol as an actress, not as a migrant, even if she is herself. And what she was digging and she was hiding were photographs of disappeared people. Each person was reading that action in a very different way, right? So that's precisely the power of performance art.
This is the final performance of a whole process of this Encuentro female migrations. I'm from Mexico City, but my roots are Zapotec roots from Oaxaca. I started doing it through activism, but when I was involved on that and seeing what is going on, I wanted to just show it to the world, like this is what is happening. And I wanted to put that in an art piece.
We, artists, activists, scholars, who are interested in creating a different way of living, have to get out of our silos. And we have to learn to understand each other's languages and to work together.
My piece is named Mujer Borderfly, which is a metaphor of the monarch butterfly and migrant women, but it's also a way of honoring all the missing women from Mexico and from here that are missed in the border. You can say whatever you want to say in a safe place through art. My pain can be your pain too. It's not something that is separate. Like, we are the same people.
It's complicated to talk about the root causes of migration, but I do believe that if we don't talk about this, when we talk about migration reform, then we are validating the process that right now is in place, that is deadly, is violent, kills people, and allows for people to be victimized, criminalized, et cetera, et cetera.
When you're addressing issues where there are deeply held values, people shut down because they have their position, they have their beliefs, and there's no way to engage. And so what art does, it creates this pathway, a different way in, so that people are able to potentially engage an issue and to maybe learn something new and maybe feel something differently related to the subject matter.
What I want people to get out of this is the possibility of talking to one another to try to imagine a different paradigm.
School segregation is a difficult chapter in U.S. history. While it left painful wounds, many African American children were able to persevere and thrive through the adversity. This is Barbara Lewis, in her own words, sharing her experience at Tucson's Dunbar School from 1942 to 1950.
My name is Barbara Lewis, and I attended Dunbar Segregated School from 1942 through 1950. I remember this room being my first grade room. It's familiar and I can remember it, but it's now used for storage at the moment. My teacher was Miss Carter. I love that name. And actually, I remember now talk about a soft and loving teacher, she was. I found a picture of me. I think I must have been 6 or 7. And I think it was when my mother had a beauty shop downtown, and there was a studio called Gabusi's. And I think he must have just said, "Come on in, little one, let me take a picture of you, because I've got an ice cream cone I'm hiding here." Look at that. Those pants are all big, that belt's all, and those shoes. I never had friends until I started attending school. We were just kind of like isolated, and my folks didn't let us run around and make many friends. So this was like my friends and my little family, and I was so happy to be with them. There was Edwina, me, Herman, Ed Sparks, Bert Preston, Tina. Oh, I could go on, but yeah, I remember them all. We were very happy children. I don't think we realized that we got the only books we had was used books when other schools were through with them, or that we were really deprived. I think if that's all you know, that's all you know. And this is the principal's office, but my goodness, it's so much smaller than I remember. It used to look so big to me because, well, I was little, I guess. I talked all the time. I talked constantly. I think I came here talking constantly. And, you know, okay, Barbara Hollins, go to the principal's office. This is the electrical room now. It used to be, we didn't have a cafeteria as such, but Miss Warrior would cook on burners. We were especially happy on Thursdays because that was Chili Bean Thursday, and we loved it. We pay a nickel for our little lunches and find a place to eat them. This arch is, I'd say it's kind of like our auditorium or our assembly hall, because we didn't have one to begin with. And we'd have all kinds of celebrities, African-American ones that would come to town. Parents that had a profession would come to talk. And we'd line up from under this arch all the way down to the end of the hallway would be kids coming out of each one of these rooms. We would have our Christmas parties for everybody here. It really is nostalgic when I stand here and look down, or when I come this way and look up, because this was our main space until we got an auditorium on the other side. This was 1950. That's me. And let's see, this is my best girlfriend. I had 2 boyfriends. I'd interchange them. And they were best friends. This is Ed Sparks and Bert Preston. Yeah, I'd alternate. You don't want to hear that story. This is our teacher, Mr. Todd, and he's 103 this year. And he's still, as far as I know, clear-headed. He was a wonderful teacher, such a nice man. And I can say that they did good, because the majority of each one of those classes, the kids are professionals. A lot of doctors, engineers, out from that Dunbar School, which is amazing to me. I don't know, I felt warm and wanted. This is the only school we could go to in those early grades. And this is the only school that Black teachers could teach, was here. We were all in this together. The funny thing was that as soon as we got out ninth grade, graduated ninth grade, we went to integrated Tucson High. If I had a magic wand, I would have it completed soon. I'd have enough money where we could finish our library, finish our museum, shore up some of the defects that have happened over the years with the earth moving, and we'd have a lot of activities because we do have a lot of room. I'd like for it to be many things, but for the legacy to remain. I do not want a legacy of separatism, but just let it be known what it was. But we want to be better than that. I'll always love this building. I mean, no matter what happens, but we're going to see to it that it stands another 100 years.
Like what you see on Arizona Illustrated? Visit our webpage at azpm.org to watch and share stories from this and previous episodes. And like us on Facebook, where you can watch stories, comment, and share your own story ideas. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram, where we share photos and links about the show and what's happening in our community.
Young people today are growing up in the world of social media. School shootings are common. War and terror continue. Public discourse has devolved to a new low, and teen suicide is soaring. Now, a new phone-based app has been developed to help today's youth deal with the mental health challenges they face. It's called Text, Talk, Act.
Good morning, everyone. How are you today? So you're concerned about your friend. What's the first step that you can do? Ask. And then what's the second step? Listen.
It's a Tuesday morning at Pima Community College, and students are gearing up for a conversation unlike any they've had before.
My name's Raquel Goodrich. I'm here with an organization called Text Talk Act. And today we're going to do an interactive... Text Talk Act it's a conversation. It's an activity that allows students and participants to talk about mental health.
Okay. Casey, was that a no?
It gets students in small groups together with a cell phone through text messaging. They receive a series of text messages that lead them through a conversation on mental health.
What % of youth with mental health issues don't receive mental health services? So it's saying to pick a %.
I would either say 49 or 74% because I think a lot of youth, they think that their parents will frown upon them, so they don't tell their parents what the issue is going on. So none of them receive any services because they don't tell anyone about it.
To continue.
3/4 of all mental health problems present themselves before the age of 24. So we knew that being able to reach youth in an innovative way was going to be essential.
I didn't realize stress and anxiety was like a big mental health thing until I was like, hey, ADR, I have like panic attacks like every 2 weeks. Like, what's going on?
I think we should definitely know what people are going through in the background. Yeah. We often just assume like somebody's happy when they could be going through like food insecurity or just they're depressed.
We had an independent evaluation done back in 2015. And what we found was that through the 45-minute conversation, the students walked away with a greater understanding of mental health, a greater comfort level in talking about mental health, and they also had a greater understanding about how to help a friend in need.
Should we do the next one?
What does it mean to be mentally healthy? I'm gonna let you go first because I'm not that mentally healthy right now.
I think it means to be mentally healthy is to take care of yourself.
Right
taking time for yourself and not saying yes to everyone else around you.
Now you're just targeting me.
The Text Talk Act conversation gave Pima Community College sophomores Jade Pena and Angelica Mejia new insights and a new lens through which to see their experiences.
It was a way for all of us to talk about things, and I think we spoke on things for longer because things kept coming up.
We're trying to become more open to the ideas.
People don't have to feel like they can't talk about it. Luckily me, when I was growing up, I was able to talk to my mom about it, but if a lot more people had that like supportiveness, then they wouldn't have to grow up and take so long to get help.
I feel like all cultures hesitate on some mental health issues, and if they identify an LGBTQ, then it's definitely frowned upon. And I think it's important because it's shunned. From my own experiences in my culture, being in a Hispanic culture, it's not really a thing at all. It's like, oh, like, you'll be okay, sleep on it, just don't think about it. The next day will be better. Most cases, no. Mental health is an issue, and it is valid, and that it is okay to have mental health issues. And it's okay not to know what they're about, because that's what this is all about.
Well, see, like, me, spiritual is a big part of who I am, so that's when I get my crystals and I meditate, and I like to light incense and candles. And
I need to work on that. Where would I be?
I need to work on it.
I think that really helps. I think another thing is going outside.
Yeah, well, she's just reading out loud.
So far, Text Talk Act has reached more than 125,000 students across the country. Now the app is returning to its roots. First developed with the University of Arizona's National Institute for Civil Discourse, it's bringing its focus back to schools in southern Arizona.
Of coming depressive episodes.
We're really looking at going into all of the school districts throughout the area to bring Text Talk Act into classrooms. And we'll typically work from 6th grade up through college. So, each of those grades are appropriate for the Text Talk Act conversation.
Doing things out of my comfort zone and just trying new things.
Awesome.
The goal is to teach youth about the power of being willing to ask and to listen.
Yeah, so this man lives in Australia. He lives across the road from a cliff where people go when they're contemplating suicide. And I looked this guy up. He, every morning, goes out to his kitchen window with his binoculars to see if anyone's standing on the cliff. And if they are, he's old, so he runs. I don't know how fast he runs, but he'll run across the road, and he'll walk up to them, and he'll do those 3 steps. He'll ask, listen, act. And he will invite them back to his house for a cup of tea. And as a result of that, and this was a few years ago, as a result of that, he's saved 160 people. Yeah, so ill, right? So at that point, that was when I... Mental health can be a difficult conversation for people to have. So it's really important for me to work with our nation's youth to give them the tools that they need to be able to not only feel comfortable talking about mental health, but to know what to do if they had a mental health issue or if a friend had a mental health issue. I think we've come a long way in the past few years, but I still see that there's a lot more work that we need to do.
And now, from our Far Afield series, we bring you Roman Barten-Sherman performing I'm Throwing Up My Hands.
If I could holler, mama like a mountain jack. If I could holler, Lord like a mountain jack. Go to the top of this mountain, mama, and call my baby back. I've been. Mama, Lord, what fix I've been. I ain't got no money and I sure as hell ain't got no friends. Said I'm going away and worry you off my mind. Said I'm going away, Mom, and worry you off my mind. Now there ain't no use throwing up your hand and crying.
Thank you for joining us here on Arizona Illustrated. Here's a sneak peek at a story we're working on.
3,000 people have come into this office for a post-mortem examination. We've had a slow motion mass disaster played out over the last 19, 20 years. Not only is personal loss a tragedy, this not knowing if they're alive or dead, and if they are dead, has the body been found, or are they still laying out there?
I'm Tom McNamara. See you then.